We're doing the Heat right now.
Yeah. Pregame.tv, it is heating up in the studio. We're going to talk about the Miami Heat, Indiana Pacers, Game 5. As we are recording this right now, it's in Game 3. They're on pace with the total. Game 4, on pace with the total, and Miami's up 6. And as we head into Game 5, I think we all know Miami's going to win.
I laid 150 before the end of the season that they're going to win it all.
You just
two different ways.
Did you play back Indiana plus 650?
No, I swear to you, I did nothing, not a penny. I did Miami minus 150. Will they win the NBA championship? Yes. And then Miami as one of the teams that was listed to win the NBA championship.
Those were good numbers.
Yeah, minus 150.
Did you parlay?
Why didn't you give us some?
I cut and pasted it. I even tweeted them out. Both of them.
Did you parlay to the Blue Jays under 91?
No.
Why?
No.
Why not?
Nobody's going to beat the Heat.
Okay, no one's going to beat the Heat. Well, you know what? This is kind of a foregone conclusion. The Heat are going to beat the Pacers. What about the Spurs? How many games is it going to take the Heat to beat the Spurs?
I love the Spurs. I've been a big Spurs fan.
But no one's going to beat
I've made money with the Spurs. When they won their championships, Spurs were on pretty undervalued team, because they're not that sexy team. They've never been. So even though they were a championship team, you were able to make money back in the Spurs. So as far as the series goes, maybe because how easily they've gotten to this point, they may not offer the value they would have. I think if they would have struggled in the Western Conference Finals and played Miami, I think Miami would have been a lot bigger favorite than they're going to be because of how dominant the Spurs look. So you're not going to get that value. But I don't think you're really going to make a lot of money betting Miami. But with that said, you've made money with them, backing them through the playoffs. It's an argument that you made.
The Patriot. How
are they
overvalued?
Exactly. How could Miami be overvalued when they lose 2 playoff games so far, the whole playoffs, and how many have they covered? I mean, why fade this team? I don't get it.
Any chance for the Spurs?
I thought we were talking about the Indians.
What? We're talking.
I will talk.
I will conclusion with Indiana.
We're talking about the Heat. We're talking about the Heat. So I'm forecasting by the Spurs. But talk about the Heat.
Let me just throw in the thing about the Spurs. We did radio earlier today, and you thought the Spurs were overrated because they just come off that 4-0 sweep, but they struggled in 3 of those 4 games. Go back with the Spurs when they played Golden State. I mean, they did not play well against Golden State. It's all a matchup thing. I've heard people say that the Spurs match up well with Miami. I'm not really sure that they do.
Nobody matches up well with them.
But I will give you that the Spurs are the one team who's been through more playoff games than the best players on Miami have, so they've got a lot of experience in it. That said, to me, Miami's the clear best team in the NBA.
No one matches. You saw Indiana matched up with them well the first 2 games because Miami played more or less not to lose. They didn't play to win. They got punched in the mouth in Game 2.
Didn't make their threes.
And then what happened? They went into Indiana and they said, let's play ball. And they ran them to death.
Now, one thing that's good for Miami in their matchup against Indiana here is that Indiana, they're kind of going to a new level. They're really not used to going this deep in the playoffs or beyond this point. Whereas Miami, obviously, been to the finals twice, won 1, lost 1. They're used to it. They expect it. But, you could make the argument that if we think back to they almost lost to Boston last year, those Jurassic Park aging veterans of the Celtics. And would not the same sort of circumstance apply forecasting ahead if they get past Indiana when they play the Spurs? Might this not be like a Celtic-like series where the savvy older guys they've been there, they know how to win, and they could really muck this game up?
I think a big part of it's going to be how far Indiana pushes them, because Miami's not big. We've seen that's their weakness. I mean, they get dominated inside. If they play that half-court style basketball against big guys, you saw Indiana was just dunking on them at will. So if they push them and take a lot out of their bigs, since they're not already quality bigs, then I think the Spurs could give them some problems. But if they manhandle Indiana like they did in Game 3 and wrap this series up in 5 games, then I think they're going to be just fine.
As far as the total, I keep waiting for, I'm a basic strategy bettor. I will win with this. I will lose with this. And I was winning with this like crazy and bet like a pro, up over 40 units on April 1st, and since then I've just been chopping like back and forth. And basic strategy says I got 3 straight games that went over with the Miami Heat in this series.
Splitting aces and eights all the time.
And what that tells me is I have to go to war with Miami under,
right?
Because the rest of the way through the end of the Indiana series.
But it's not a fade against the public; it's a fade against the market, kind of, right? That
well, the public is driving the market,
right? But I mean, you're looking for a regression. It's not just because people like the over. It's the odds makers are adjusting. They're raising the price.
Well, they're just trying to get balance.
Game 1 was 181.5. Now we're looking at 185s.
And if Game 4 is on pace, like right now as we speak, but the more games, and I hate to talk about a martingale system where martingale, of course, we keep doubling up, and I'm not going to advocate a doubling up, but I am going to
triple up.
I did say this. I lost 2 games in a row pregame. I had a real big play that lost in overtime. Game 3, the Memphis under.
I had that on there too.
And I loved the play, and it lost. And then I advocated a second play, and I've been red hot, through giving out these plays. And I gave it out for free, and I played the Game 3 to go under with Miami and Indiana. And I said, don't bet more than normal. Don't suddenly, if you bet 2 units on the loser, don't suddenly bet 4 units. You got to just keep your normal bet size on a strong play. And that flew over. So now, at this point, it's almost like the people, it's easy to say, oh, forget it, I'm not going to play these totals anymore. And I think that's the wrong attitude.
Of course
you got to just keep coming.
Are you surprised that the 3 games without tonight's game, they've averaged 201.5 points per game? That's a lot of scoring. 1 game did go over in overtime, so that's into that equation.
But the original line, when it went to the overtime, it was over at that point.
Exactly. I mean, they're putting up.
What's amazing to me is you've got 2 of the elite defenses in the NBA.
Miami, number 5 points allowed. Indiana, number 2 points allowed. If you look at efficiency, 6th in field goal percentage allowed for Miami, number 1 in field goal percentage allowed for Indiana, number 1 in 3-point field goal percentage allowed for Indiana. Where's the defense?
In this series, these teams are averaging more than they did during the regular season when they're playing the Charlottes, when they're playing the Clevelands.
Just cannot continue.
It can't, in my opinion,
it's got to regress.
Let's make it regress. All right, every game cannot go over. We had 3 straight overs with Miami, Indiana, and what's funny, someone who bet the do system with the Memphis, there was 3 straight overs, and the 4th game should have gone over, so they should have gotten their 4 overs, but the last under snuck in. I really think that if you do nothing else but play every Miami Heat game under the rest of the playoffs, you're probably going to cash more than you're going to wind up losing, and I think it's just a system I'm going to go with, and I really feel the line value instead of 181, now you're getting 185. Go ahead and play under. I think it's going to be a winner.
Cash them, don't trash them, baby. I agree. I think if you blindly bet the under the rest of the way with Miami, you'll get value.
Don't hedge.
Because they're
get the edge.
No way. 150. That was it. I laid.
Fully agree.
All day.
What rhymes with agree? Says the pedigree.
It's good.
Excellent. Well, Bryan, we're going to bid you a do, right? You've got a meeting right now.
Talking hockey?
Yeah, we're talking hockey. I don't know anything. I'm staying.
That's where the money is.
So
I have nothing to add. I leave.
I get to be the host, so I get to just interview VR. He's going to go ahead and give you 2 winners. We're going to bid Bryan Leonard a do, and we are going to be back. Pregame.tv. VR is going to be breaking down both the hockey games. Stay with us. Pregame.tv.